everybody, welcome back to Jimmy's Promo, and today we will be taking a look at and reviewing the full entire brand new lineup from Anker of their GaNPrime Series 7 chargers. Now, I've had all of these chargers for the last month, placed them in all different rooms for different scenarios, was able to travel with this one as well, and I'll share with you a couple of them that are my favorites and for what reason, and also we'll take a look at this one that actually has a hidden feature that you might not see right away. Now, going through all of the products, this one over here is the smallest of the bunch. This one is the Anker 735 charger, GaNPrime 65 watt max. You'll also have the Anker 737. This will give you a max of 120 watts. You'll also have the Anker 747 charger, which will give you a max of 150 watts. Now, this one over here is actually really cool. As you plug this into the wall, so then you'd be able to charge in 3 devices. You're also able to charge this itself because it is a power bank. So this is the Anker 733 power bank, and it'll have the max output of 65 watts. You'll also have this one over here, which is pretty cool, again, with a hidden feature built inside. This is the Anker 615. This will give you 65 watt power. And then you also have this one over here. This is just a perfect one that I'll have next to my bedside because it does have 2 AC chargers on the top. Then you also have 2 USB Type-Cs and then 2 USB-As. This one is the Anker 727 with a max output of 100 watts. Now, I'll also let you know how long these cables are as well. So this one is a power station. This one comes with a 5-foot long power cable, which is just fantastic. You can really place it really anywhere next to your bed or workstation. You'll be able to place it on a desk or bedside or wherever you need it to be. Then you also have this one here, which I'll show you how long this cable is because I'm going to give you a hint. This one is that hidden feature. Now, before we go through all of these chargers to show the sizes and also how much each of these ports are able to put out in terms of output, if you plug in 1 or 2, 3, or 4 at the same time, we do need to go on the back of the device because there is 4 features or unique selling points that I do want to talk about. We'll go through these very quickly just so you get an understanding of what stack design is, what the PowerIQ 4.0, Active Shield 2.0, and gallium nitride, which is a GaN charger. What exactly is GaN itself? Once you understand these 4 main concepts here, then you'll be able to choose which of these devices or products is best for you in your home. So the first one that we'll talk about will be the stack design. So stack design is talking about the architecture or the way they're able to make these ones compact. So by using innovative interlocking structure and stacked architecture, they've been able to reduce the size of the charger by 53% while also lowering the operating temperature. Now, the temperature reduction can protect the charger to ensure it lasts up to 2.4 times longer, from a standard 3,600 hours of use to more than 12,500 hours. Now, the next up will be gallium nitride. So what exactly is a GaN charger, and do you need a GaN charger? What are some of the benefits of GaN? So basically, GaN or gallium nitride chargers are about 3 times as efficient as silicon-based chargers in converting power to electricity, and they're much smaller and more portable as well, enabling them to charge your phones 10 times faster than a regular charger, meaning you can take them with you anywhere you go and still get more power. GaN is resistant to high temperatures. The chargers last a lot longer while reducing the heat put out by the device. GaN technology will increase the possibilities of producing more powerful devices while using less energy in the future. They have quickly become popular as the perfect semiconductors among chargers. So that is what GaN is. Basically, just making sure that everything is staying at a cooler temperature, especially as everything is getting more compact. Now, next up is the PowerIQ 4.0. So PowerIQ 4.0, it monitors the power needs of connected devices in real time and distributes power accordingly to ensure the best charge every time. So as you plug in, let's say, a cell phone and a laptop, what will happen is it's going to charge pretty fast at the very beginning for the cell phone. And as it gets closer to 100%, it doesn't need to have as much. So it actually puts out a little less wattage to the cell phone as it's getting closer and closer to 100%, which is actually moving that additional power over into the larger device. This, in this case, is the laptop, to make sure that it's also fully charged in almost the same amount of time. And then lastly will be the Active Shield 2.0. So Active Shield 2.0 is a intelligent temperature monitoring for total peace of mind. It upgrades the temperature monitoring frequency by 76% compared to the first generation of the Active Shield technology. It monitors the temperature up to 3 million times per day to ensure safe charging for all the devices. So first up, we're going to talk about the smallest of the full bunch. This is the Anker 735 charger with a max output of 65 watts. Now with the 65 watts, you're going to have 3 different ports. 2 of them is USB Type-C, the other one is USB Type-A. Now the purpose of this suction cup base right here, this little attachment to place on this brick, is just to ensure, because some of these might be a little bit longer than normal, they might have a little bit more weight to them as well because of all the technology and the power that they output. You just want to make sure you have a very solid grip, a good connection to the wall so they don't just accidentally fall out, especially if you're unplugging it. So this way it's going to have a good connection to the wall itself. Now when you place this on, all you have to do is just flip out the little switchblade type of plug right there. You're just going to push it on in. And then next up, you just place it on the wall. So now that we've already talked about the Active Shield 2.0, we talked about PowerIQ, we talked about GaN, we also talked about this little accessory. Now let's just go through all the rest of these here and talk about the wattage output of all of these different ports. So again, this one is the smaller option of what you're able to take a look at. Now in terms of the output, the max output again was 65 watts. So if you plug in only one port, let's say that you use only the top, you'll be able to get 65 watt output. If you use the bottom Type-C here, this would be a 65 watt output there as well. And then if you only use the bottom, that's 22.5 watts. And I have a visual on the screen going through this, taking a look at the Anker website. So this way you guys can have a visual of all of these as well. Sometimes you can learn a little bit better by taking a look at that. So let's say you use 2-port charging. Now, if you plug in 2 at the exact same time, both of the Type-Cs on the top, your max output is going to be 65 watts. If you use the top Type-C and the bottom Type-A, again, maximum will be 65 watts. And then if you use the bottom Type-C and then this Type-A on the bottom as well, both of these here at the same time, you'll get a maximum output of 24 watts. Now, the one thing that you want to take a look at is where that little big computer or laptop icon is. That's the one that will put out the most output for you. So if you're charging one thing at a time, if it's big, if it's a larger smartphone, if it's a tablet, if it's a laptop, always take a look at that little icon, and it's really nice that they included it on this little base right here. And then for the 3-port charging, if you have all 3 of them in use, you're only going to get a max output of 65 watts. Again, this one's a 65 watt charger. If you plug in all 3, you'll get 65 watts total. Now next up will be the Anker 737 charger, which has a max output of 120 watts. Now, if we were to compare the first 2 here, now these ones are pretty much the most similar out of all of them. They do have only 2 USB Type-Cs on the top with a USB Type-A on the bottom. They're pretty much almost the exact same shape. You're just going to notice that the 120 watt, the 737, is just a slightly longer and just a little bit bigger. So it's going to weigh just a little bit more as well, but they're both able to charge 3 devices at the same time, except for the fact this one's 65 watts and this one is 120 watt max. Now let's go through the charging guide of the 737. So because this one's able to push out a little bit more wattage, this one has a max output of 120 watts. You're able to see a slight difference from the 737 to the 735 up there in terms of how much wattage is able to be pushed out of the top 2. So with the top 2 right up over here, if you plug in one device on the top or one device in the middle right here, you're able to get a 100 watt max output. Now again, this is only going to be a 100 watt max output for any device that's able to take 100 watts or more. If you're plugging something in that's only able to take in 25, 35, or 50, then that's going to be the max that's able to be pushed out of these, because they do go with all of the different charging standards out there. So if you have a Samsung device, if you have a Google device, if you have an Apple device, whatever the max charging rate is, that's what you're able to get from these chargers. Then if you plug in on the very bottom, that Type-A port, you're able to get 22.5 watt max. Now let's say that you have 2 devices charging at the exact same time. So if you're charging with the top 2 up over here, you're able to get 120 watt max. If you go with the very top and then the bottom, so that top Type-C and then your USB-A, you're able to get a max or a total max of 120 watts. And then if you use the middle and the bottom, as I mentioned before, that laptop is the one that is able to push out more. If you go with the middle and the bottom, if you're plugging 2 at the same time, you're able to get a max output of 24 watts. Now, let's say that you use all 3 at the same time. Here's basically the gimme. the max output is 120 watts. So when you plug in 3 devices in all 3 of these ports right here, you're able to get the max output of 120 watts. Now next up will be the Anker 747 charger with a max output of 150 watts. Now this one does come with that suction base again, and this is one that you do want to use it for. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. You just want to make sure you have a good connection to the wall itself, especially if you're going to be unplugging some of these and you're traveling, you don't want it to fall on the floor, anything like that. Now, when you take a look at this USB-A, one of the things that you're always going to notice is that for all of them, it's always going to have a max output of 22.5 watts for single charging. Now, the biggest change with this one versus the others is that this one now has 3 USB Type-Cs. That laptop symbol in the middle, which is be able to push out more wattage when you have a couple devices plugged in, that's going to be the middle port. And it's very visible, easily to see with that little symbol there. Now let's talk about that charging guide. Again, visually up on the screen, easier to see and to learn and pick up on. If you plug in any single device with any of these bottom Type-C ports right here, you're able to get 100 watt max. Now, if you were to plug in again with the USB-A, you're going to be at that 22.5 watts. And then now for the 2-port charging. So this is where it kind of changes and gets a little confusing. So I make sure that the visual is still up on the screen. When you charge anything, any 2 devices with the top Type-C to the middle, you're able to get 150 watt max output. If you use the middle to the bottom, so if you're charging with both of these at the same time, you're able to get a max output of 150 watts. Now, if you go from the bottom to the top, you're able to still get 150 watts output of all those Type-Cs. Then if you use that top Type-C port and the Type-A, you're able to get a max of 24 watts. Now, what would happen if you used the middle and the top? What's going to happen is you're able to get 22.5 watts here and then 100 watts out of that laptop symbol. Then if you want to take a look at this one again, if you use the Type-A and the bottom Type-C, you're able to get 22.5 watt and 100 watts. So really it's the exact same setup. So if you use these 2 here or these 2 here, you're able to get 100 watt from the Type-C and 22.5 watt from the Type-A. Now let's talk about one of my favorite ones here. This is the Anker 733 power bank. So yes, it is a power bank itself. When you have this one plugged into the wall, you're charging up to 3 devices at the exact same time with the max output of 65 watts. Once you're going, you have to hit a plane, go to the airport, go to the library, go wherever you need to go, plug this out of the wall, push up the switchblade plug. Now you have a portable power bank of 10,000 milliamp hours. So we're going to take a look at the visual again, so this way you can see how much output is able to come from these ports when it's plugged in as a wall charger versus a power bank. So first up, when it comes down to the single port charging, if you use any of the top 2 Type-Cs right here, you're able to get a max output of 65 watts. Again, that is if it is plugged in, and then 22.5 watts for the Type-A. Now, when you have this one unplugged from the wall, you're using it as a portable power bank, you're able to get a max output of 30 watt or 30 watt for the Type-Cs. And then here is your USB-A again at 22.5. Now, when it comes down to the 2-port charging, let's say that you go with the top and the bottom. Now, again, when this is plugged into the wall, you're able to get 45 watts and 20 watts. If you use both of the Type-Cs up here, you're able to get the 45 watt and the 20 watt. And then if you go from the middle Type-C to the bottom Type-A, you're able to get 15 watt total. And then for the portable charger portion of this one, if you charge 2 devices at the same time, no matter how you set this up, you're able to get 15 watts output. So if you use the top and the bottom, 15 watts. If you use the top and the middle, 15 watts. And then the middle and the bottom, 15 watts. And then when you're doing 3-port charging, again, the max of this one plugged in is 65 watts. So if you have 3 devices plugged in, you're able to get 65 watt total output of all of these. And then when it's used as a portable charging bank, you're able to get 15 watt total. Now, the one thing I want to add with the Anker 733 is what was inside of the box. So all the rest of them come with the brick and a user starter guide. Well, this one does come with a Type-C to Type-C charging cable, along with a little carrying case. It's a little felt bag you're able to place this in to kind of protect it so it doesn't get scratched or anything. But the other thing I want to mention here is because let's say that you don't have an output to actually plug this in to get this thing charged up. On the top port up there, Type-C is in and out. So if you already have one of these bricks plugged into your wall and you just want to use this to charge up the power bank itself, you can. So all you have to do is just plug it in from the wall, to the top port, and now you're charging this as a power bank itself. Oh yeah, and there is one thing that I do want to add with this one right here. So one of the questions I always have with these power banks is when you have them plugged in and then you have another device plugged into it itself, what's going to happen? Is it going to charge this and charge the cell phone, or what is the order? So this one has pass-through charging. So when this is plugged into the wall and you have other things plugged in, it's going to charge what's most important, which is what you've plugged into this. So if you plugged in your cell phone, it will first charge the cell phone itself. When it gets closer to 100%, it'll actually bring down the wattage. When it's, 96, 97, 98% of your phone being charged, it'll still charge it to 100% at a slower rate, and then start charging this itself. Because if it's going to be plugged into a wall, this is the last thing that it needs to charge. It needs to charge whatever devices is primarily plugged into it. So if that makes sense, it's a pass-through charger. It'll charge what you plug in first, and then the power bank built with inside. Now let's take a look at the power strip and the charging station. So first up will be the power strip. This is the Anker 615. It has a max output of 65 watts. This one is using the PowerIQ 3.0. Now for all of the ports on this, you have two USB Type-Cs. You also have USB-A there in the middle, and then you have two of the AC plugs. So this way you'd be able to plug this into the wall. It gives you two ACs, and then you can also still charge 3 devices up here if you want to. So you can technically charge 5 things at once, or you can charge 3 and plug in 2 other things, however you would like to look at it. But here's the really cool feature. This has a built-in 3-foot cable underneath this little rubber area. So if you were to pull this out, it basically just kind of shows the space of where this 3-foot cable is stored. It gives you some details right here of the unit itself. Now let's say that we put this back in, just so we can talk about all of the different ports and what they're able to do. Now once you have it all wrapped up, you push it right through the little slot, you push the rubber back down, and then you just plug it right back in. So now let's take a look at all of the different ports and what you're able to do. Now we're not really going to talk about the AC stuff, just because everything's going to work the way it is. If you have stuff plugged in, maybe like a small little, heater in your room, or a clock, or whatever it may be. So for the single port charging, if you're to charge with the Type A right here, for the Type A, it'll be 12 watt max. And then if you use any of the Type Cs on the bottom, it'll be 65 watt max. Now, when it goes down to the 2-port charging, what's going to happen is the very top, the Type A up here, will have a max output of 12 watts. The middle Type C, the top Type C right here, this one's going to be 45 watt, and this one down here will be 18 watt. So if you use both of these at the same time, what's going to happen is you're going to get 45 watt and then 18 watt. Now, if you were to go with any of these Type Cs and then a Type A, you're going to get 45 watt and then 12 watt. And then for 3-port charging, again, it kind of changes a little bit. The very top Type A up here will be 12 watt max. The middle one will be 30 watt max, and this one will be 20 watt max. So let's say that you go with all 3 at the exact same time. That's what you get: 12 watt, 30 watt, 20 watt. And then lastly will be the Anker 727 charging station. This is able to put out a max output of 100 watts. This has PowerIQ 3.0. This one is going to come with this little power strip or power plug right here. This is where you're able to plug it in on the top right up over there. This power cable here is 5 feet long. So you're able to almost put this almost on the other side of the bed if that's where your plug is, or if it's in the middle back of the bed, you need it to sit up on an end table. This one is going to be long enough for you. So on the top, you're going to have 2 AC plugs, and then on the bottom over here is going to be your 2 Type Cs with the 2 Type A. And again, there is that laptop icon, that little symbol. This is the one that will be able to push out the most when you have multiple plugged in. The bottom base is perfect. It has the 4 little non-slip nubs right there. You're able to just sit it there. It's able to stay calm if you were to move things around, stuff like that. Now, before we talk about all the ports on the bottom, I want to show you what this thing does up here. I kind of call it pop and lock. I don't really know what they call it, but it kind of pops out. It kind of locks into place. It gives you that full extension that you need to have, because again, this thing is pretty thin when it comes down to having this type of a plug kind of go in there. I mean, it extends up and holds, pops and locks, as I like to say. So I think that's a really cool design. Again, making it super, thin, but still take in the full prong. You can charge your laptops, tablets, cell phones, watches, buds, switches, cameras, whatever it may be. And this is able to have all the charging standards for it, keeping everything safe and to the max in terms of how much output is able to come through each one. So for single port charging, you're able to get 100 watt max out of either of these Type C's. Now, when it comes down to the Type A's, you're able to get 12 watt and 12 watt. When it comes down to the 2-port charging, let's say that you wanted to use the 2 Type C's, you're able to get 65 watt and 30 watt. So again, where that laptop is, it's able to push out more. Let's say that you go with maybe this second Type C over here with this first A, you're gonna get 30 watt and 12 watt. Now, if you were to take a look at this first one over here of the Type C all the way to probably this one right here, the Type A over here, you're able to get 45 watt and 12 watt. And then if you go with both of these Type A's, it's gonna be 15 watt total. And then when it comes down to the 3-port charging, you're able to get 45, 30, and 12. And then again, you're able to get 45, 30, and 12. So if you use both of these two and that one, basically it's the same as these two and that one. So again, 45, 30, and 12. And then lastly, for the 4-port charging, you're able to get 45 watt, 30, and then 15. So this has been the full entire lineup of Anker's 7 Series GaNPrime. So really the ones that I like the most, I mean, if you want something that's very small, something that would go in your backpack or purse if you're traveling, maybe it's only a 1-day or 2-day thing, this one over here, the 735, is perfect. Now for me personally, out of these ones on the bottom, I would probably take this one right here, just because this one is able to push out a max output of 120 watts. This one's perfect for the home because I know I have more devices, more people here. So this one is going to stay there along with the suction base, able to fully put out 150 watt max. And then you have the 733 Anker power bank over here. This one's super cool when you're traveling. All you have to do is just set this thing down, plug something in from the top, and then now you're able to charge your laptop, your tablet, cell phone, whatever it may be, with a max output of 65 watts. So when I travel, this is the one that you can take. You can actually almost only take this one if you want to. So you don't have to take one of these ones down here as well. So then this way you'd be able to have it on the go or plugged into a wall. So this one right here is one of their main ones that I would push personally, just because I think it's super cool. Then you have this power strip. It's very compact that you're able to take. It's all in one with a 3-foot, cable. But this one's the power station. This is the one that's going to sit in the room where I'm at quite a bit, charging a bunch of things before I go to bed. This could also sit in the office. It could be in the kitchen. You could plug in several things up on the top while still charging devices on the bottom with a 5-foot long cable. So this was the full entire review. I love all of these products. Anker is an amazing company. I'm super glad that they're able to reach out and see if I'd be able to do this for them. Again, thank you for sponsoring today's video. Thank you for sending all these products out. They've been all around the house in different rooms for different purposes throughout the last month, and super excited and happy with their performance. So at any point in time, if there's any of these you guys are interested in, I'll be placing links below the video inside the description. You're able to click on it and you can grab some of these for yourselves based on today's video. But hopefully you guys appreciated it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the very bottom. And if you like this video, then more than likely you'll also like this video. And I'll see you guys later.